You know, when you think about it, as long as there's been a right way to think about things, there's also just as long been a way far wronger. And just because you have a lot on your mind, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're right about any of it. Though I'm not just gonna sit here and tell you that you're the wronger. You know, I do feel like a lot of people are quick to dismiss just how many levels of conspiracy theorists there are out there, and act like none of it is valid all over a couple of wackos. And a conspiracy theory on its own isn't necessarily such a bad thing, but can definitely be a slippery slope in the hands of a fucking moron. After all, these people don't just come from nowhere. You know, but still, the ability to think about all these sorts of theoretical things as an alcohol-induced rational thinker is only natural. I mean, we all do it. Though it also just so happens to be exactly where the conspiracy theorist spectrum begins, with a natural degree of rational skepticism. See, what I mean by this natural skepticism is really just a level of ability to question that gives you an IQ above 45. This is to say that from time to time, you might dabble in a little thinking. Hell, even ponder for a while, without necessarily getting all too radical in the process. Just having your own theories and reasons as to what this is all about. Clearly, at this level, you're just a smart guy who won't necessarily let all these things poison over into your thought process for the rest of your life. Not to say that they've turned the frogs gay per se, but that just maybe there has been a shockingly large influx of homosexual behavior within a proportion of the total frog population in recent years. At this stage, conspiracies don't much inhibit you from still getting on with being a normal guy about things. And so if this is you, then it's not really that much of a cause for concern. It's all good, so don't worry. That is until you get a little further down the line, which can be as simple as being your average Joe Rogan Experience listener. Now, ladies, or anyone who actually enjoys comedy anywhere, before you get your panties in a twist, let me be honest with you, alright? I get that this can seem a bit past normal skepticism, an unhealthy habit for sure. And sure, maybe his comedy is really that ass. I mean, there's no defending that. But I don't know what to tell you other than a little bit of JRE is just one of those things that no fella is able to resist. At least every now and then. I mean, why exactly did you think he was so popular? Did you really think that it had anything at all to do with his political hot takes? Did you think it had anything to do with his height? I mean, who cares about any of that? This dude is worth a comfortable $500 million for no other reason other than evidently so. There's not much better than watching this mutated meatball of a man with a microphone and headphones to hear someone 5 feet from his face be totally convinced by disgraced scientists of new ways of thinking about things he doesn't even understand in the first place.
James, what is the thing
Believe what you want,
wind?
Joe.
They have
Good
expanding
man.
solar winds.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
when they meet,
That's the truth.
our
Is that what I think it is?
Nah, no, it's nothing. It's just this weird kind of porn that I've been watching lately.
No, I told you the last time was that. This is it. I'm out of here.
No, don't leave. No, don't leave. It's just
Bye. Listen, I'm not trying to argue that it makes much sense, or that it doesn't border on something dangerous, but that really is just kind of a dude thing, and still relatively harmless as long as you make sure to keep that fella away from that elk meat, because that right there can you up. See, because it's about here, just past that point in particular, where things begin to get a little more serious. And for a little preface, I know an awful lot of stoners. Yeah, I know, what did you expect? And I'm not sure exactly what the long-term effects of every single daily marijuana usage and abusage are. Whatever it just does to you, like your neurochemical brain pathways or whatever, I have no clue. You know, I have no idea as to why every single stoner I know is also a mad conspiracy theorist. And even though one of these Looney Tunes may still seem to you to be a relatively smart individual, still capable of holding some sort of coherence in front of you, there's just something in their eyes and the way that they look at you that tells you that maybe a mix of drugs and a backstory you wouldn't even want to hear the half of have definitely played their part in how this person sees the world. See, this right here is where people begin to border on a little bit crazy. And sure, they mightn't be just throwing it out for anybody to see, but that the more they get to know you and the more comfortable that they get around you, the more that you get to hear about their theories and thought process, you know, the kind of thoughts that in no way ever relate to the topic at hand or any topic you'd even want to hear about, the kinds of opinions that are the conversational equivalent of just spitting right in someone's face and asking them how that tastes, and then getting all up in arms when hopefully they go, not so great. I'm not gonna lie, I always thought this is what a conspiracy theorist looks like, but in actual fact this is only the surface level to how deep this thing goes. See, I used to work in a pub. Yeah, I know, what did you expect? And between the highlights of breaking up fights and cleaning vomit off a bathroom floor, what most definitely takes the cake is the most memorable moment that I had in the place was on one quiet weekday night when this one middle-aged man began on his unconsensual ramblings to me, trying to finally open my eyes and expose the world for how it really is. Expose all the lies that unfortunately for me, he wasn't quite fooled by anymore. All of a sudden, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was being bombarded by every single wrong way to think about everything ever. To be honest, it was almost impossible not to indulge a fella like this in conversation. Because really, I'd never even met someone just so damn off the wagon like this before. Seriously, out of all the junkies and mental patients and emos that I've had sex with, still never once have I been just so blown away by the pile of shit one man could wholeheartedly keep up in his brain as a matter of fact. The level of shit that makes you seriously consider whether this person is actually seeing the same world around you or not. Probably not. Needless to say, but since then, this interaction has had quite an effect on me. I think about this middle-aged wanker far too often. I'm not like a Scientologist now or anything. I just haven't been able to shake the thought of just how much stupidity one man can carry through life on his shoulders without just imploding into a pile of shame and unwavering parental disappointment. I always used to think, no hope, that someone like this could only ever just be a bad joke or buried so deep in the Midwest of America just waiting for TLC to make a show about them. But this fella was all too real and really trying to convince me that all the stars we see at night are just little holes in a giant dome and that actually our entire atmosphere was contained within this giant cosmic spaghetti strainer with a straight face. I mean, how possibly could a man like this actually exist? This right here was a conspiracy theorist through and through, beyond the point of any return. The point at which it pretty much takes over your entire life and you can't even have a conversation with a stranger without bringing up your bullshit theories. There's only really one way to put it. This conversation was quite frankly tantalizing. If it sounds like I'm in any way joking or exaggerating about this guy, I'm not. It was only a good 5 to 55 minutes into this discussion before this fella started to tell me how his family don't even talk to him anymore over his theories. No, not because he wanted to devote his life to dance or run away with an Italian stud, but all because of conspiracy theories. I mean, what a stupid asshole. It really just can't get much wronger than having this be what your entire life's about. And that's exactly what I mean about a proper conspiracy theorist. You're dead. I'm also dead. Everyone else is dead. Just you wait. You'll see. So, you know, naturally, ever since then, I've always wanted to know exactly how this sort of mentality operates. I wanted to know every single one of their talking points and debate tricks, and most importantly, just to get them to be able to admit to themselves that they really are just a bunch of bullshitters like the rest of us. I guess you could say that what I really wanted to do is take from this man what he cares about most. I've wanted to know everything that I possibly could about how to beat the conspiracy theorist. And listen, right, because usually I'm not a judgmental kind of guy. And usually I have no problem with how people choose to go about their own lives. But this man made all of that my problem when he started to unload it all onto me. It becomes to get very frustrating pretty quickly when someone keeps blabbering on about their own bullshit, especially when he's unwilling to let what you have to say to make sense to him. And now I know how all of you must feel every time I make a video. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Never mind the fact that I was at least half his age. I shouldn't be the one having to shut him up. Then again, of course, a conversation with someone like that is bound to be tiring. See, I'd never done this before. I didn't know about the 3 key mistakes you can make while talking to someone like this, that you have got to learn to avoid if you're ever going to stand any chance of beating them. Those being trying to treat them as though they are only misguided but still rational thinkers, getting mad about it, or being persuaded by them. Thing is, what you've got to be able to realize is that someone who is willing to believe something so illogical for no apparent reason and hasn't let it go by now, is that you're probably not the first person to try and get through to them. Clearly, just to know something that you don't, no matter how stupid, is some sort of weird source of pride for that bone. If someone wholeheartedly believes that their brain is located in their pinky toe, you shouldn't expect them to backtrack on that. Even if you were to go out of your way to prove to them that it's not, you should expect to see them defend their stupid bullshit to the grave. I don't know why, probably because their brain is in their pinky toe. And you can't get mad at someone like that neither. After all, a conversation with a conspiracy theorist is all about goofy, wacky them. And nothing else. It's nothing personal, and frankly, you could probably face a fella like this against the wall and expect him to get just as much out of that conversation. Because it's their blabbering bullshit, and you're only really along for the ride. You've got to be able to learn to respect that. As for the third mistake, just don't do that. I mean, you're better than that. At the end of the day, why they like to believe something so blatantly wrong and spew it back out at you, they might like to have you believe that it's in the pursuit of some sort of deeper truth that us regular folk are just too regular to wrap our heads around. In reality, the answer is a lot simpler than any of their own bullshit theories. What it comes down to is the same reason why little girls like to dress up in princess dresses and why Jewish people like to call other white people Gentiles. To feel special. And that's it. That's what it's all about. Pretty much really all that they get out of. Just their fun little reason why as to not kill themselves. I mean, we all know that the Earth isn't actually flat. The first measurement of the circumference of the Earth was done by some ancient Egyptian motherfucker. You can only assume that people have been able to put together that the Earth is round since they first had the notion to look up and notice that everything else was also f***ing round. I can imagine it right now. A group of cavemen all gathered around a campfire after a long day's hunt, thrown back a couple cold ones with the boys, until sooner or later one of them points it out. And I can also imagine that one Neanderthal in the group who just couldn't get it, and so instead deciding to dedicate the rest of his days to pointing out stupid optical illusions and the profits of big round Earth corporations or whatever, instead of going and getting themselves some. And unfortunately to say, but I can only imagine that that's probably what ended the Neanderthals forever. What I'm trying to get at is that clearly people like this have just always been around. And if you are wondering why they actively choose to be this way, well, it's probably just the first Facebook group that they could find. But really, they'd be willing to believe anything of the sort as long as they get to be part of some exclusive crew. Clearly, there's just always been those Neanderthals just unwilling to comprehend the things that have always made sense. That aside, knowing what we've learned about these nut jobs today, we can finally put it all to work and beat these conspiracy theorists once and for all, so that whenever one of them tries to catch you off guard, you'll be ready to strike back. Here's the thing about beating a conspiracy theorist though, my little disclaimer beforehand if you will, you can't just expect them to finally admit that they've been wrong all along about all their special bullshit, when at the end of the day, their special bullshit is the only thing that in any way makes them worth being a human person, the only thing that gives them any illusion of value without which they'll most certainly kill themselves. But that's just the way it goes, you know? I mean, there's always just a price to pay to something so satisfying. Anyways, just forget about that for now. See, you still have a couple options here. For example, you could always prescribe them the appropriate medication, and although this is probably the best route to go down, it also requires an up-to-date medical license, which takes far too much time and effort and sympathy for me personally. Adversely, you could always just beat them, you know, physically until they get the picture. But if neither of those are viable options for you, then there's only really one thing left to do about it. You're gonna have to beat them at their own game. We all know that a hardcore conspiracist is not gonna listen to your side of the story, no matter what your point of view. So then all you can really do is ask enough bullshit questions to bring the conversational power back into your own hands. Because with the right questions, you can very quickly and easily have them dismantle their entire brain for themselves. Let me show you exactly how your conversations with a conspiracy theorist are supposed to go. Hey, why would you believe in a flat earth? What are you, stupid? Good question. Well, let me ask you this. Have you personally ever measured it? Well, no, but why would that even matter? So you're saying that if it wasn't already a social norm to believe in a round earth, that you personally wouldn't actually know? And have you even ever met a scientist before? Have you, bozo? Well, maybe not, but irregardless of the fact, that doesn't necessarily mean that there couldn't be any sort of agenda to modern science. Are you trying to say that you could never be manipulated for profit incentives? Never mind the fact that the modern theoretical universe model is centered solely around this thing called gravity, a mere probable force with no whatever, homo. Jesus Christ, just kill yourself. Yeah, okay, maybe I did have to learn that last bit about conspiracy theorists the hard way. No, not because they wanted to get the fuck. No, not because